I hear. Now, not every photojournalist is known to be honest, right? Especially not the ones that sell photos of spirits and giant creatures to tabloids. Yeah, I know what you mean. I've seen those sorts of photos many a time in court. But there have been times when those photos have turned out to be telling the truth. If you had ever studied a court of law, you would know that it's entirely plausible. You really believe the stuff you're spewing right now. A courtroom certainly is a strange place if what you say is true. But there really is something odd about that photo no matter how you look at it. Ooh. But we are in agreement that an arrow by itself would reach the other side, correct? But just the arrow by itself is pretty meaningless, don't you think, Mr. Prosecutor? Because the things they wanted to smuggle were a lot bigger than nothing. No, that's not necessarily true. What? What I need right now is not further discussion of my conclusions, it's the launching of my conclusions. What the shooter wanted to launch with the crossbow was not the statues themselves, but rather something a crossbow can launch that can be used to move the statues. So, if it wasn't a statue that was tied to the arrows, then what did the crossbow launch? It was some wire! Of course. Finally we have reached this point in our discussion. For I present to you that which was carried by the arrows from the crossbow. I get it now, Mr. Prosecutor. I can see exactly what you're trying to say. There we go. You're saying that the wire was tied to an arrow and then shot into Mr. Cochin's office. All the way from the 5th floor of the Alabastian Embassy down to the 3rd floor of the Babalese Embassy. If what you're claiming is really what happened, you can see how Alabast's Primadux statue could be moved. Gravity could be used to move the statues down the wire from the 5th to the 3rd floor. But then what about Babal's Primadux statue? The dark shadow in this photo is clearly flying away from Babal. Going in the opposite way of gravity from the 3rd floor of the Babalese Embassy up to the 5th floor of the Alabastian Embassy. How do you explain that? I think I finally see how the gears behind this whole trick works. Agent Lang, the motion used behind this trick. I wonder if perhaps you have yet to envision how it works in your head. Motion? What motion? Oh, there we go. This is the motion that was employed to smuggle Babal's Primadux statue. The bungee action, swinging action, rotary motion. I said action for the other two. I meant motion, but whatever. I believe it was done via rotary motion. If the two statues were transported simultaneously, get real, the statues would collide somewhere along the way. Did they ever say that there was only one line of wire between the two offices? If you shot an arrow with the two ends of a wire to it, a circular belt could be formed. Langzy says don't object and call a success what is beyond reasonability. Taking into account the tension difference between the two wires, the top one would sag too much, to the point where the statues would collide anyway. Agent Lang, as you know, the Primadux statue is a one-of-a-kind national treasure, and the fact that Babal's statue is a hollow replica of the real statue, it would naturally be lighter than the real one, meaning that my idea is very possible. Langzy says... Howl. Here is what I believe happened. Miss Yu and her mystery co-conspirator set themselves up in two different rooms. The co-conspirator bridged the rooms by shooting the two ends of the wire down on one arrow. Then the two of them covered the statues and proceeded to transport the statues. After the switch was completed, another arrow was fired. carrying the other end of the wire down to Babal, where it was disposed of. And to do that, Miss Yu hid it inside the grandfather clock, QED. This proves it, right, Agent Lang? That I'm not the killer. Not yet, sis. I still haven't had my dessert yet. Right, Mr. Prosecutor? The proof is in the pudding, as it were. Pudding is a nice dessert. So, do you think you can do it? Can you prove that what you said is what happened? Because remember, if you can't, I'll be taking a certain someone back home with me as a souvenir. I agree that as long as there is no proof, my hypothesis remains just that. However, what I have laid out is no mere hypothesis, for there is one more piece of evidence. One more? This should be interesting. You think you have a piece of evidence that will turn your hypothesis into fact? Well then, let's see it, Mr. Prosecutor. The thing that made it possible to create a circular bell out of a length of wire. I believe that it is right here in this very room. Oh. Now then, I believe this is what made the circular belt transportation method possible. Boink! I really hope that works. Looks like you dropped another bomb on us again. The last piece to the trick. Our two pulleys. Precisely, the ceiling fans double as pulleys in this case. And thanks to the fact that there is one installed in each of the offices, the ceiling fans made for the perfect pulley set for the wire to run on. Oh Jesus. This must be it. This is how the smugglers bypassed the impenetrable security. You really are something else, Mr. Prosecutor. I bet you've figured it all out already, haven't you? You know who the big hotshot that set up this real-life stage show is, don't you? The person who set up this rather large and complex stage show needs to be someone who had foreknowledge of the existence of a ceiling fan in both the Alabastian and Babalese offices, and that the passion flowers' support stakes could be used as arrows. The real mastermind behind this case. Well, don't you dare make this wolf wait for his food. Why are you so hesitant, Miles Edgeworth? If you can't say who it is, why don't you present something like you always do? A single point of the finger here in this case will explode into an international incident. However, it's already too late for me to stop the forward momentum. It appears that I have no choice now, but to rush in. There is a piece of evidence that will point us to who the mysterious mastermind is. This smuggling could not have been made possible without the use of the crossbows. Furthermore, the arrows that were shot by the crossbow were plucked, as it were, from the flower box in this very room. They were planted so long ago that the passion flowers had the time to grow so big, that Miss Von Karma didn't even notice the arrows when she visited the room today. On top of all this, the fact that the culprit knew that both offices had ceiling fans tells us that the person has very detailed information on the embassy's layout. So, as you may have already guessed, the person I am accusing of hatching this plan is the person who grew the flowers in the flower box with the utmost care. Thus, it can only be you, Quercus alba. Are you out of your mind, Miles Edgeworth? I'm certain of what I am saying, and I am sure that he is the culprit. Tell me, Mr. Prosecutor, what was the ambassador trying to accomplish by doing all that stuff you just outlined? Why in the world would he need to use a trick like that? I understand that your need to doubt me. However, there is one thing that stands out to me as very odd. Just one thing, huh? The one single end result Ambassador Alba sought to obtain. If we were to examine the focus of this complex trick, I believe we will finally find the answer to everything. Everything will become clear once we examine this piece of evidence. Wait, what? Used to be real. but swapped with a fake. That one was the real deal, was it not? So why- wait. If that was real, why swap it? I would fully understand the reasoning had the situation been the reverse. However, to go through the trouble of swapping the real Primadux statue for the fake, there's a very shady reason for such a bizarre action. And who better to ask for that reason than King Primadux himself? I see. Ambassador, we'll be examining that statue now, with or without your permission. Oh. Really? I don't even know what I could examine. Head? This guy kinda looks like the Steel Samurai, don't you think? Maybe it's because they look alike, and he was picked to be the Goodwill Ambassador. I suppose that's possible. Take a look at this area around the base of his neck. It looks like a gap. Hey, you're right. Maybe it's meant to be some kind of secret. Perhaps it's possible to open the statue from this gap in its construction. What? Hurry up and open it, Miles. Alright, here goes. Wow, it really did open up. Hey, what's this thing that fell out? I believe a more thorough examination of it is required. What in the... is this... Hey, is this what I think this is? It's a plate for making counterfeit bills. Somehow, it appears that we've at long last arrived. Oh. At the exit to this complex labyrinth, we finally hold within our hands one of the counterfeit money plates. And the reason why the replica was smuggled into Alabas to begin with. Oh. The Primadux statue can only be handled by the Ambassador or the Secretariat. And the replica is nothing more than a hollow shell covered in gold. These two circumstances make the statue the ideal object in which to hide contraband. After receiving the statue containing the counterfeit plate from Sheena, the Ambassador had the misfortune of accidentally running into Damask II. Surprised by the thief, the Ambassador raised the replica statue at Damask II and... poof! Crushed his damn head. Then, in order to frame the Steel Samurai of the murder, he covered the samurai sword in blood. Well, Ambassador Alba? You are the leader of the smuggling ring. My country is a mess, and it's all because of you? You are the one who killed Damask II? Answer us. I never thought that you would figure things out to this level. However, there is one point I disagree with you on. The head of the smuggling ring was... Mr. Cochin. Bullshit. Quit screwing around. I have no sympathy for someone who would try to pass the guilt onto a dead man. If there is one thing I'm sure of, it's that you're the real ringleader, Quercus Alba. It's not good to speak with such subjectivity. You know, Agent Lang. Subjectivity. My conclusion is anything but, and is the result of logic and investigation. Logic and investigation. Only seconds ago you were ready to arrest Miss Von Karma. I don't think we can give such flip-floppy logic any real weight, do you? Oh dear. Now he's gonna start laughing again. Alright. Looks like you still don't get why I came back. Excuse me? You see, the reason I came back is so that I could sink my fangs into your wrinkly old neck. From the very beginning, my real target has been you. What? Agent Lang, I demand an explanation. Sorry, sis. I didn't mean to put you through all that. I knew you were innocent from the very beginning. You did? I knew that this whole incident had been meticulously planned and prepared for. So naturally, the occupant of this room, Ambassador Alba, seemed the most suspicious. But without the Ambassador's permission, we couldn't get in to take another look around. Ah, so that's why you put on this big show to accuse Franziska of the murder. Using Franziska as the bait, you were able to gain us entry and investigate our investigative rights. Yeah, if I hadn't done that, I doubt the Ambassador would have given the okay to poke around. So that's what this was all about. Very well, I will forgive you. But in exchange for using me as bait, you will take some responsibility and help us find the truth. Agent Lang, for giving me such a great opening, I thank you. You know, I just knew, Mr. Prosecutor, that somehow, if we were able to find some proof by investigating this room, that you would be able to figure out the real culprit with your special brand of logic. The evidence detectives collect, combined with the logic of a prosecutor. That's just as it should be. In a prosecutor-detective team, right? I don't know about all that. But one thing I do know is that I'm itching to see that old man get what's coming to him. You're quite scary when you want to be, aren't you? Hey, you were the one who was planning to use me to push all the guilt onto the sis. But unfortunately for you, you misjudged me. Agent Lang, I wish for you to stop trying to intimidate me. What we need right now is evidence and proof. I wonder if you have what is necessary to prove that I am the head of the smuggling ring. Don't be such a sore loser. If you really are the head of the smuggling ring, then you should acknowledge your crimes with dignity. Dignity? That is nothing more than a fool's insincere display of strength. If you really wish for me to acknowledge my crimes, then I would like to first see some of this thing you call evidence. I tell you, I knew nothing, really. I didn't even know that a counterfeit plate was hidden inside that statue. You swapped a real statue that vested in your country the authority to rule for a fake. Hey Yigsaw, how's it going? It doesn't make any sense that you didn't know anything. It doesn't make sense? Where doesn't it make sense? Can you prove that it doesn't make sense? No. He really got us. He's turned the entire situation around against us. Of course he has. This happens all the time. Then the proof that Interpol has been after, which points to this man as the ringleader. We can somehow find that proof now, that we can see to it that justice is finally served. Is there nothing I can use to break this case wide open? Yeah, the tape, the video that shows the car as well as the trump card and the videotape. With those two items, we might be able to finally bring this man down. But the card is evidence from a case that Mr. Faraday hid away in secret. And the tape was stolen by Detective Bad. From the police. They're both illegal evidence. Oh no! No matter what, a protector of the law can't be allowed to use such pieces of evidence. Now we're gonna have to. Needless to say, we Von Karmas are commanded to achieve nothing but victory. And by any means necessary. Well, there you go. The only way to bring someone like that to justice was to do so outside of the courts. That's what we thought at the time. No longer follow the path of Manfred von Karma. And I won't follow the path of the Yatagarasu. This leaves me with what? What creed will I believe in? If I want to pursue the truth, then I will sully my hands in illegality. And if I want to pursue justice, then I will lose the truth. What is the law and what is justice? And which path is a prosecutor supposed to follow? That choice is one I must make by my own hand here and now. Don't use the trump card. Really? Should I? I mean, if you don't use it, it probably forces you to use it anyway. I'm just like, should I? Yeah, do them. Use them! There is no limit to the law. Any limit that exists was set there by man. When a person goes beyond that limit, then the law too crosses into new territory. For what reason were laws invented? The answer to that is what I must now show. Ambassador Alba, I wonder if you might recognize this. Oh, I wonder what that card is. I've never seen that before in my life. It's a directives card used by the leader of the ring to relay instructions to his subordinates. Oh, is that what it is? This card was sent to the real culprit behind the KGA incident 10 years ago. A man by the name of Mr. Manny Kojin. Oh, so why do you have such a card in your possession? Because it was hand-delivered to me. By a certain great thief, the Yatagarasu. The Yatagarasu gave that to you? Don't talk nonsense. And let's be serious, Mr. Edgeworth. Do you have any proof that the card contains directions from the ringleader? I'll have you know that the card is not the only thing I was given. What? This contains security footage that was shot just before the start of the KGA incident. The KGA incident? The card and the video. These two pieces of evidence are what will seal your fate. Very interesting. I must admit I am very curious now. Very curious indeed, in these case-deciding pieces of evidence you presented. The prey the Yatagarasu has been chasing all this time now stands before me. I can't allow this man, who has had free reign for 10 long years, to simply walk away. Now is the time for me to bring to fruition the valiant spirit that was given to me. Bloody hell. Pardon me. So what is this interesting thing that you wanted to show me? The trump card and the videotape. These two pieces of evidence together make for the ultimate hand. This is where the real meaning behind Detective Bad's words will be realised. Detective Gumshoe. Yes, sir. There we go. What you see here is security footage shot just before the KG8 murder occurred. From this footage, we know that the card is a directives card from a smuggling ring, or from the smuggling ring. Right, so present the black card in his hand. As you can see, Mr. Kojin is holding the card in his right hand. I see. The killer is indeed holding a card with the exact same design on it. But that card and the one you have, just because they look the same, doesn't mean that they are, does it now? But there's a very easy way for me to prove that they are in fact one and the same. All we have to do is simply take a look at this. There we go. This dark red blood. Yes, this is your proof. Proof that the orders on this card were played out in that terrible tragedy. The blood belonged to the victim of the KGA incident, With a bit of DNA testing, we can very easily verify that as fact. If you have no objections, then I'd like for you to take a look at this next piece of footage. So, this car that passed by in front of the victim's apartment building, it's an official Cadopian government car. What? Detective Gumshoe, if you could please magnify the footage. Enhance. This area of the footage directly links the smuggling ring with Cadopia. I'm assuming it's that. That looks as if it's a card. Maybe. I'm not entirely sure though. The shape of this pocket, and the directives card in it, it tells us that without a doubt, this person in this car is Mr. Cochin. The license plate on the car was also captured by the security camera. And with it, we can easily find out who was sitting in this car on that day, 10 years ago. Which is why I can say with confidence that you were riding in this car on that day. Huh. Oh, now he's laughing, of course. Oh my god, he transformed! Holy shit! You've done well, boy, to make it this far. However, above your claim that I was riding in the car at the time, that's going to be mighty difficult to prove. How so? The Principality of Cadopia no longer exists, so naturally, all records from that time period also no longer exist. The arrogance. What he really means is he's already erased all traces of them. Are we finished here, boy? The only weapon I have left to me now is this piece of footage. Well, luckily there is something here. There must be something here that can use against him, and there is. It's called a medal. That'll do. What the? Ambassador Alba? Yes, what is it? You were once an army man, in the service of Cadopia. And it was you who made the many missions you participated in successes, correct? Why the sudden backhanded praises, boy? Although, to be sure, the brilliant medals on my breast were awarded to me during the era of Cadopia. But now I am the only one who owns this particular medal. In that case, the only person it could be who is sitting in this car is you. How do you figure that? By the medal captured here in this footage. It is clearly the same exact medal as the one on your chest. But what? Oh my god. This is how it will be, but I won't look back. For this is the path that I have chosen. And of course he laughs again. But you've moved... Wait. You've moved me with your devotion to the case. Or to this case, Mr. Edgeworth. Why is he taking such an arrogant stance with me? It's almost looking possible, isn't it? For the lot of you to have come this far. Looks like I just might lose our little game this time. You might lose the game this time? You don't get another round, Mr. Ambassador. Is that a fact? Very well, I've decided to confess and admit my guilt. You're going to confess? And I will accept whatever punishment that may come as a result. What the? Regarding the Damask II murder, I admit it. I did it out of self-defense. You're claiming it was justified self-defense? Damask II attacked me. And I felt that my life was in danger. If I hadn't done what I did, I might be the one you found dead instead of him. What a pathetic performance. I'm not giving you one. Well, you two really know how to laugh at inappropriate times. If you wish to claim it was justified self-defense, then we will need some evidence. It's always the evidence with you, isn't it? But if that's what you require, I'll provide it. That man left a mark on me when he attacked. What? I don't particularly want to show it off, but this is proof that it was in self-defense. I'm an old man, and sometimes I don't pay enough attention when I should. But Damask II didn't have a single weapon on his body. Hold on, it's nothing to get worked up over, because I hid the weapon. You hid it? I'm sorry, but as you know, a murder is a murder, even if it is or even if it's in self-defense. And I couldn't let it become public, seeing as how I am an ambassador. This is the weapon you seek, my special bonsai trimming shears. It's covered in blood. He was trembling quite badly during our struggle. Well, that's when he grabbed the shears that were sitting in my office and attacked. So you see, it was an act of self-defense. Is he right, Mr. Edgeworth? Since he has both a wound and the weapon that caused it, it's enough to declare it so. No way. Oh, which reminds me, I guess there is still one more accusation I need to resolve. Smuggling and counterfeiting. Unfortunately, all of that is my secretary's doing. I had no knowledge it was going on. Stop spewing nonsense. You're trying to throw my investigation under the bus in your desperation. If you want to get real honest, everything in this case can be connected to you. The murder of Damask 2 was done in self-defense. In my trials, no man escapes his crime alive. Perhaps so, if you were my opponent in court. However, there is one very important fact that I think you may have forgotten. And what is that? I don't get it. That's what you mean. Extraterritorial... What? Extraterritorial... I can't say this word. Extraterritoriality. There we go. Extraterritoriality. There we go. That's right. This embassy sits on what is effectively Alabastian soil. So any trial that's to be held will be held in Alabast. Therefore, the crime I just admitted to will never be tried in your courts. Agent Lang, what is Interpol's stance on this? Agents investigate, that's our job. The judgment of people who have confessed to their crime, that's the court's job. Uh-oh. And I've already confessed to all of my crimes, Agent Lang. Furthermore, by the very nature of my position, I have full extraterritorial rights. These rights are effective even on your country's soil, therefore, no matter where a crime may have taken place, or may take place, I will never stand trial in one of your courts. That arrogance in your expression. That's nothing like the face of someone who is ready to accept the consequences. Don't tell me you have your own country's judicial system eating right out of your hands. These crimes you all speak so seriously of, to me this has all been nothing more than a game. You may chase me out of this embassy with your accusations, but it's no big deal. Alabast has numerous other embassies in other countries around the world. All you would accomplish is you would change the backdrop of our little game. These two layers of protection that extraterritoriality provides him. This is why he is one of those who cannot be brought to court. You see now, don't you? I live in a whole different world than you. Now if you'll excuse me, I need to go and fetch your eviction papers. Oh dear. Is there nothing we can do? To be continued. There we go. Woohoo! Oh man. Yep, so now we're actually in like the final stretch. But like the last two parts are probably going to take ages to get through anyway. I would assume so. Regardless, that is going to be the end of this session. Thank you so much for watching, I hope you have enjoyed, and until next time, take care.